I'm Larry Magid, and this is Are We Doing Tech Right? A podcast from Connect Safely, where we speak with experts from tech, education, government, and academia about tech policies, platforms, and habits that affect our daily lives. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe and visit us at ConnectSafely.org. Here's a sound that a lot of people probably don't recognize. It's an old-fashioned telephone, once connected to what we used to call a POTS line, which stood for plain old telephone system. But these days, almost everybody is using a cell phone, and those are great. But there's something to be said for those plain old telephones. For one thing, if you had an emergency, you just picked them up and called 911, and the operator would know exactly where you're calling from, not just your approximate location based on GPS. But regular old phones, or landlines, are rapidly becoming obsolete. However, there's a company called Ooma that offers an internet phone service that can use those old-fashioned phones or modern cordless phones with just about all the advantages of that old phone system, plus a lot of other advantages at a much, much lower price. Eric Stang is the CEO of Ooma. Eric, let's start by talking about what is the Ooma phone service.
Yeah, we offer phone service for both residential homes and for businesses. But for most consumers, it's a device you can buy to put in your home, connect up to the internet, but get very reliable, traditional type phone service, along with special features such as blocking telemarketers you don't want to talk to, having a mobile app so you can get your phone calls when you're outside the home, and other things that make the phone more convenient for you.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I had Ooma for a long time, and I actually hooked it up to a regular standard desk phone. In fact, I had two Ooma lines, and I had a two-line phone. Mm-hmm. And I had a landline also for my home use. That was my business phone for many, many, many years. I mean, going back to before area codes, if you really want to go back far enough growing up. And if you're watching the video of this, you can actually see an old rotary phone in the corner of my ear. But most people are listening. But interestingly enough, my landline kept getting deteriorating in for two ways. Number one, it was all spam calls. But more important, I was getting static. And I kept getting AT&T out to the house, and they would do something, and they wouldn't fix it. I mean, I think they tried. I think the technicians were doing the best they can. And finally, I just ripped it out because the quality of service had gotten so bad. Whereas the Ooma phone continues, assuming I've got internet, which I almost always do, continues to be quite good.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. The copper line phone service has been degrading for years. In fact, they're now even sunsetting, closing down the copper network in certain geographies in the U.S. today. So some people are forced to make the transition. One of the great things about the Ooma phone is it works like a landline. You have landline 911. You can pick it up, dial 911. You don't even have to say a word, and the police or fire department knows where to go to come to your house and help you. And, if you use it with our internet service, it can also work even when the internet goes out.
Well, that is mainly the reason I'm calling you. As you know, this podcast is called Are We Doing Tech Right? But it's sponsored by Connect Safely, which is an internet safety organization. And as I was talking to my colleagues in the organization, sort of justifying this is very different than what we typically do, I said, well, actually, there is a major safety story here, which I want to get to, because virtually everyone has a cell phone. And so one might ask, why would you even need something that looks and smells and acts like a landline? And of course, you also get into the question of if the internet goes down or if your power goes down, unlike the old landlines of yesteryear, if your power goes down and if you don't have a battery backup or some other system, your internet and your Ooma will go down with it. I know there are solutions for that. But I also know that with 911, if I were to dial 911 from my cell phone right now, they would know my approximate location. And because I live in a single family house, they might come to my house. They might come to my neighbor's house. But if you live in a condo or an apartment, they have no idea what unit you're in.
Yeah, and it's more than that. I know I called 911 once. I've been in a car accident. I waited for 10 minutes, and they never picked up off my cell phone. Where I live in San Mateo County, it goes to a centralized location for the whole county. And I guess they were busy at the time. I don't know. Fortunately, police showed up anyway.
I've had that same experience on the road when I've seen road hazards. I call 911. Used to get this highway patrol. I'm not sure where you get anymore, but I've been on hold for quite a while, or waiting to get an answer for quite a while.
You may remember the big fire that happened in Oakland, in that living space, and they called 911 when the fire broke out, and they couldn't. They got routed to a location away from them, and then that location referred them to a wrong location, trying to figure out where they were. They actually got the fire department to come by running down the street and knocking on the door of the firehouse.
That's a reliable way to do.
So, it's just the case that cell phone 911, they don't know where you are. And it's not your local PSAP, we call it, point of presence, that's getting the call. So it's going to take time to refer you, even if they do answer. And, that time matters, particularly in certain situations. The FCC did a study where they said if 911's response was 1 minute faster in the United States, it would save 10,000 people a year from dying.
Well, there's one of the other reasons why I have an Ooma phone both in my bedroom and in the downstairs area in my office is, look, cell phones are pretty reliable these days, but nothing's 100% reliable. And in some disasters, of course, the cell towers could go out. The cell phone could have a dead battery. And I hadn't thought of this before you just mentioned that at issue of the minute. Making a call on a cell phone, obviously it doesn't take a long time, but sometimes you have to fiddle with the screen, wake it up, put in your PIN number, get to the right app. It can take 30, 40 seconds, maybe longer in some cases, as opposed to picking up a phone and just dialing 3 digits and you're done.
Yeah. And, anybody in your house can do it. And they're going to get the right place, and that place is going to know who called. It's a terrible story, but when they discovered, Prince at his home, the people who discovered him didn't know his address. So they called 911, I guess on a cell phone, and they were running around looking for mail to find his address, to tell them where they were.
Wow.
With a real 911 in the home, your child can pick it up and dial 911. Your babysitter can do it. Anybody can have instant access to response. And, on average, I'll tell you a fact about our service. On average, once every 9 years, our customers call 911. Think about that for a minute. I don't know the last time you called 911. I guess it's within the last 10 years I've called it once, but my wife called it once when the kids got stuck in the banister. But, people do use it.
Sure. I've used it. I mean, fortunately, not for anything threatened my life, but I've used it certainly on the road when I've witnessed accidents. Of course, Ooma, that's not where Ooma's market is, although theoretically possible. But the other thing, I have adult children, and my son apologized the other day because he called the house and he could only call, he called the cell phone because he didn't even think that we had a house when he forgot that we had an Ooma phone. Although, frankly, the Ooma phone is mostly my office. My wife doesn't answer it. But, the fact is, in the old days when I grew up, there was a house phone, for better or worse, right? We all shared it. When me and my sister and brother were using it, my parents, were hovering around. And actually, there are some safety implications there as well as the annoyance of having your parents listening to your phone call. But the point is that there is something to be said for having a house phone. When people, it's different than calling an individual.
Yeah, I don't know how you do things, but I keep my phone on vibrate a lot. Mm-hmm. If I don't have it right with me, I don't know I'm being called. My mom's in her 80s, and she has Ooma with phones throughout the house. And it's been a real blessing because she's not very mobile, and I can always reach her. And, sometimes she forgets to call me. I ask her to call me every day just to check in. And, the worst thing is when I go to call her and she doesn't pick up.
Yeah,
I get nervous what's going on. And so with phones in every room, it's easy for her to pick up the phone and say, oh, hi, I forgot to call you, but everything's good. But yeah, it's really nice to have the convenience of always being available throughout the house.
Speaking of safety, trip hazards are another safety issue. And the other day, I finally decided I needed to get rid of that ugly rug that I had in my bedroom, whose only purpose was to cover the phone wire that goes from the wall over to my bed, to avoid tripping over the line. And I realized that for what, $50, $49 or whatever it is, you can buy the Ooma Telo handset, wireless cordless handset, and completely eliminate any phone wires in your house. Not to mention the fact that the phone wires, a lot of people don't even have phone wires in their house anymore. You can plug the Ooma into the old phone system wires if you want to, which is what I used to do. But I'm enjoying the fact that I now have a completely wireless / landline type solution.
Yeah, indeed. You can, one of the neat things about with Ooma too is we're talking about convenience and safety with 911 and having phones in the home. But our service prices start at free, just pay taxes and fees. So
Amazing.
you're not spending much to have
And the hardware is not that
convenience
much.
and safety. You do have to buy the hardware. And as you said, if you buy the satellite phones that work wirelessly, you can put them anywhere in a convenient spot and not worry about all the trouble of cords and things. And that's what most of our customers do. And they just set the phone in a corner and they've got it when they need it.
I was surprised. I live in a pretty big house, and it actually got from my office downstairs all the way up to my bedroom, which is way on the other side of the house and up a story, and it works just great. In fact, better quality than the landline I had. So what I've done, because I want the most safe possible situation, is I bought it's not a universal power supply, but it's one of these big batteries that is enough to keep a refrigerator going for several hours. And I've got that in my office, and I have my internet modem. I have a AT&T, it's called a gateway, but I use it as a modem. I have my router, which is separate. And then I have my Ooma device plugged into that. And so that if the power were to go out, I would have hours, probably days worth of internet service and Ooma service. And then upstairs and in my office, I'm using the wireless phones, which have batteries. So I assume you've got many hours of standby there. So that's my way of saying, okay, the power goes out, I'm still fine. What are what's your thought about that issue?
I think that's very forward thinking to have put all that together. For our customers who don't want to power other things, we offer a version of our solution. We call it the Telo LTE for wireless service. And you can it comes with battery backup and its own internet, back to us, so that you can have one device and it's going to operate no matter what the power does. And as you said, with the phones either hard connected into it or our satellite phones that have batteries, you're good even if the power goes out. And a lot of people like that solution just for the ultimate in security, I guess.
Yeah. Does it also, assuming everything's fine, you got power, you've got your own internet, can you hook it up to your own internet, your own power supply, or do you have to use the LTE for all your calls?
It's flexible. You can hook it up to your own internet instead. You can hook it up to your own battery backup instead, but it's one contained unit that comes with its own internet and battery backup just in case you want to use what was put together for you.
Which is another redundancy if your internet fails, unless you're on the same service and I don't know what service you guys use, but
we most often, we use a couple different services. It depends a little bit on your location and which service is going to be best for you, but often we're using the T-Mobile network.
Yeah. So if you have Verizon and that's down, and if T-Mobile isn't, you're still okay. And what are some of the other reasons that people might want to use your service?
Another which I found very valuable, I don't like giving my cell phone out to everybody. Everybody asks me for it. And, I like to control how many calls I get because I'm always getting interrupted by the thing. And so I often give my home phone number and I rely on the Ooma mobile app. So I don't have to be at home to get the phone call. The Ooma mobile app will ring on my phone with my home phone number. But in this case, I can see it's the mobile app being used, and I can screen the callers more easily or do things like that. Or just turn the app off if I don't want it. But it's nice having a separate phone number for the home versus me personally, because then, I'm not getting bothered by a lot of things that, are more, I only want to deal with when I'm at home.
And also that means that when you're away from home, in a sense, your home phone will follow you because it will ring through the mobile app and you can still answer your home phone if you choose to.
It does mean that. And a lot of stay-at-home parents love that because they're out and about all day with the kids. But, they don't miss that call when it comes in. With deliveries and with a workman coming to your home and other things, the drugstore calling up to say your prescription's ready.
Sure.
You get all these phone calls. Well, you won't miss them. You've got
And
the mobile app.
and if it's a doctor's office, you'll never be able to get back to them. So sometimes you got to kick going. And well, what I do is I have one phone number I give out. It happens to be a Google Voice number. And one of the things I love about Ooma is that I was able to configure it so that the caller ID that I'm putting out there is my Google Voice number. So most people, I don't even know what my cellular number is, and most people don't know it because Google Voice, of course, will ring anything. But also, if I make a call from home, it will give out that Google Voice number as well, which is I choose that. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, you can. One of the nice things when you move to an internet phone solution like Ooma is it's very configurable. You can set the caller ID you want to have. You can have it ring in different ways. You can have it set up so it doesn't ring at certain hours of the day, or only rings with numbers that you've whitelisted. So if it's one of my family members, it's going to ring between midnight and 7 a.m., but all other calls, it's not going to ring. There's all kinds of nice little features you can do. And you can set that stuff up on our web app, and it's all just sort of, paint by numbers simple, and you can just select what you want it to do.
Now, it's been a very long time since I've made a long-distance call on the AT&T landline network, so I have no idea what it costs. But back in the day, it was not cheap. Even calling from Palo Alto to San Francisco, which is 30 miles, cost, 20 cents a minute or something. Ooma, as I recall, has pretty good rates on international. Of course, domestic calls are free. But your international rates, I think, are pretty low, as I recall.
They're extremely low. In fact, one of our biggest calling destinations with our customers is India, because we offer very low rates there as well as many other countries. I ran into this the hard way a month or two ago. I was planning an overseas trip, and I needed to make a couple phone calls to hotels that didn't do my online entry right. And I got a bill that was like $50. One phone call on my cell phone. I believe it. I was shocked. And then I thought to myself, here I am at Ooma, and I didn't even use my own long distance. But, that probably would have been pennies. Or less than $1 on Ooma's international.
I call London a lot, and I think it's like a cent a minute. It's essentially nothing, or very little. I can't remember exactly what it is. I have taken my Ooma Telo with me overseas. Back in the day before AT&T offered a $12 a day international plan, which is still a lot of money if you're traveling for a lot of time. But I remember when it would cost many, many dollars to make even a short call from anywhere in Europe back to the U.S., and the Telo worked just fine, assuming I could get an internet connection. Is that a use case? Is it legal? I get it. I hope I'm not confessing to a crime here.
You're not. I can tell you a lot of our customers do it. We have our customers in almost every country of the world today. This goes back in time, but we even had a U.S. embassy using it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
You can be anywhere in the world and call the U.S. for free. And someone in the U.S. can call you like they're calling another U.S. number.
Right.
So, and that works great if you have the Telo box and you take it with you, but it also works with the mobile app. So, if you're going to be out of the country and you want to stay connected, it's essentially it's as free as calling anywhere else in the United States. And that's a really nice capability. Tell you a small story. We discovered when we went public that we actually had a couple of our Ooma Telo boxes in North Korea.
Wow.
Which we didn't want to have, and we didn't know they were there until we discovered it. We, of course, had to shut them off because that's illegal.
Right.
But that just shows you how far the Ooma Telo has spread around the world.
That's amazing.
It's really, really something.
They even had internet to hook up the Telo too, but I'm sure that was a government installation that was using them.
I don't know. We don't know who it was. We just know we had our product there. You can go to the center of Africa, and we used to have a map. I haven't seen it lately. I had an online a map on a computer screen here that showed all the different telos around the world, and almost every country, even the center of Africa, just places you would never think had our product in them. Because for just a few dollars a month, you've got complete phone service and a lot of optionality and flexibility. It's really the the least expensive way as well to connect these days.
Yeah, my only warning is if you take it to a crazy time zone, that you make sure you put on the do not disturb so you don't get routine phone calls in the middle of your night. That was one problem I had when I think I used it in Paris or somewhere. And, oh my God, the phone's ringing off the hook, and they think it's daytime.
There is a button on the unit you can push for do not disturb, but yes, it's important to remember that.
And of course, you also have voicemail. Not that anybody uses that anymore.
Well, we do, but we also send your voicemail to your email.
Yes.
So you can read it, scan it. Nice little feature too. It's amazing how many Ooma Telos phone service we sell every quarter through mass retailers today. 10 years ago, people were talking about the home phone going away. And I think even today, there's 30, 40 million landlines in North America. And we sell a surprising number of Telos every year still. And it's been a great product for us. We're ranked number one by Consumer Reports too, which has been a really nice advantage for us.
And then, of course, a lot of businesses largely still do use something that looks like a landline. They call them POTS lines. Plain old telephone service is the official name of a regular landline. But businesses need regular phones as well, often.
Well, in fact, we have two solutions in that space. We have what we believe is the best solution for smaller sized businesses. Think, Main Street businesses, doctor's office, insurance agent, lawyer, auto repair store, restaurant. We have hundreds of thousands of users today on our small business solution. And then along with it, we have a dedicated solution for POTS lines that are, as you say, that are going away for businesses. We call that Ooma AirDial. And, you probably never thought about it, but how does your elevator phone work, or your door and entry system, or your fire alarm panel in your building? All of those have copper lines, and the copper lines have gotten very expensive, sometimes well over $100 a month. And, we can drop in our solution to replace the copper line and keep the equipment going. And it's been a great growth driver for us as a company. And it's funny, it's a natural extension of what we did so long ago for the home phone service. We've taken the equipment up a level in what it can do and put it now into the business setting, and it's been going great for us.
And of course, a lot of people run businesses from home as well. So in that case, it could be very handy. And I'm trying to remember whether there's a solution for, tell me if there is, and I may be getting you mixed up with something else, like groups, like let's say ConnectSafely. We have several employees around the country. Is there a way we could have one phone number that could reach our entire staff who may be scattered around the country?
Absolutely. We, some people will set it up that way with what is called multi-ring, ring everybody at once. Some people set it up with we call it find me, follow me. It'll ring one, and then when that doesn't work, it'll ring the next, and then it'll ring the next. You can really configure it any way you like.
After it reaches every one of your employees, does it finally get to you? You call them in.
Well, I hope they can get to me because, part of my job as CEO here is to make sure I know what's going on in the company and people feel connected. People ring me all the time.
Okay. I'll remember that the next time if I have any problems with a phone or any tech support, I'll give you a call. No, I have called your tech support department and they're quite good. I was
glad to hear that.
Pleasantly surprised because I always expect it to be horrible when I call tech support.
Well, it's hard to do tech support really well every time, but I will tell you, it's an area that we focus on because we care. One of our values, we have 6 values, and one of the values is, in fact, the first value is we care about our customer. And we'll do whatever it takes to have our customers that we have today working well and happy. And that comes first before trying to get the next customer or do the next new thing. If I have to, I'll give a customer my cell phone number and until they get resolved with the need they have. It's just an ethos that we've tried to build the company on. I found the best way to market yourself and build a great company is to serve the customers you have really well and let them tell their friends. And
well, we got to wrap up. I just want to review some of the safety issues. So we're talking about, first of all, redundancy. Your cell phone's great, but for a lot of reasons, something could go wrong with it. Second, we're talking about simplicity, like especially calling 911, pick up the receiver, press 3 buttons, you're there. They know your exact address. We talked about battery backup, that you can either get your own battery backup like I have, or you could purchase your system, which has a complete battery backup that also has an internet backup as well, so that if all of your wires suddenly got cut, you still have phone service. So,
Yes.
yeah, and I think it is something that people ought to consider as a way of being more safe and secure. And again, we also talked about elderly family members who, A, may not want to deal with the complexity of a cell phone, and B, you might want to be able to just have the convenience of having phones around the house. So they only have one phone. I know there are many times I don't have my phone with me at the house, where there are phones scattered around my house that just always sit there waiting, hopefully not to be used for an emergency, but they are there for that purpose if necessary.
Yeah, I think you hit it well. Safety and convenience at a very low price. Also great for young kids in the home.
Yep.
Now, it's fun for kids, first grade, second grade, third grade, call their grandmother, talk to someone, but, call 911 if they have to. But you're not going to give them a cell phone.
Well, that's an interesting point, because one of the things we talk about is, not wanting to give a kid a cell phone too early, because especially modern phones, of course, you can get them a feature phone, but very few people do that. If you want them to just be able to make a call from home, a traditional phone, it works. It's what I used when I was a kid.
Yeah. I can tell you, with having gone through my own kids, growing up with my youngest now a senior in high school, it is scary what happens when you hand a kid a cell phone. We postponed it as long as we could. I think our child was the last one in school to get their cell phone. But still, it's hard to monitor. You don't know who they're connecting with. We've had some issues.
Fortunately, that's why there's ConnectSafely. We have guides to all sorts of things, including all of the popular apps your kids use and just cell phone etiquette. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you can get filtered phones, but at the end of the day, a cell phone is a very powerful computer that you can use to go anywhere. And also, unlike a computer, it knows exactly where you are. And if you're not careful, so might people who you don't want to know where you are. So I absolutely agree that there's reasons why for young children, you might want to very much just go with a traditional old-fashioned telephone. And the other difference between today and when I was a kid is that my parents moved to LA from New York. And when they wanted to call my aunt and uncle in Brooklyn, they had to wait till Sunday when the rates went down to under $1 a minute. And even then, they had to get off the phone pretty quickly, because at $1 a minute in the 1960s was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Not that cheap today either.
No, that's a lot of money.
It just amazes me. It kind of, this is an aside, it amazes me, that talking on the phone is not as popular as it once was, just at the point where it's finally free. Because I remember having to really budget my phone time when I was young, even in my 20s. I'm old enough to remember how excited I was when Sprint and MCI came along and they got it down to about 18 cents a minute. And that seemed like such a great deal to me.
Yeah, I remember those days too. I'm with you. I can tell you, I've got two kids in college now, and we call them, we talk to them, and it's important to have that voice connection, I think. And we don't just email back and forth or text back and forth.
And you don't Zoom. Not every call has to be a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime meeting. Sometimes you just want to talk.
Yeah. Or just check in.
Yeah.
Like I said, I check in with my elderly mom every day.
Good for you.
Yeah. It's nice, actually.
Hope my kids do in a few years when I'm elderly. Eric Stang, CEO of Ooma, thanks so much for taking the time.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's great to see you again, Larry. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Are We Doing Tech Right is produced by Christopher Lee. Maureen Cochan is the executive producer. Theme music by Will Magid. I'm Larry Magid.